Watch more programs like this on cable and stream with PCN Select. Subscribe at PCNTV.com.
My name is Marie Tepe, better known as French Mary, and I am a Vivandier in the 114th Pennsylvania Volunteer Infantry's, or call us as Zouaves. A Vivandier is a French word meaning canteen girl, and they were always a part of Zouave units. They alternately fought with the men and cared for their needs, and it was not unusual for a woman to join as a Vivandier because they were associated with the French military since the 1700s. My duties were to help the men with whatever way that I could, but basically helping the surgeons and also occasionally fighting with them. So I have a 44 Remington, which I use. I'm told that I'm a pretty good shot, and this is my whiskey barrel. It is filled with whiskey, and I would take that out on the battlefield with me, as well as all the canteens that I could gather. I was enlisted in 1861 by a young lawyer named Carlos that wanted to get together a Zouave unit, and he wanted it to be as authentic as possible. So of course he needed a Vivandier, which was myself. And as you can see, my uniform is modeled after my regiment. This is not standard. I'm clearly a woman. I'm not disguising my gender. And so that is what Vivandiers do. Starting with the first time we ever saw battle was in Fredericksburg, and I mention that because that was where I was wounded, and that's where I first started setting up the hospital tents, and that kind of set the tone for the rest of my career in the military. As far as Gettysburg, we were camped outside of the Emmitsburg, and we were told that there was a battle to the north and we needed to get there as soon as we could. So we broke down camp and we started up, and it was the road was just an absolute quagmire as it had rained, and we were running into civilians coming with their wagons and everything they could carry, and they were heading south and we were going north, many times at the double quick. And we finally arrived at the peach orchard, made a right, and went down and bivouacked on Cemetery Ridge. The next morning, on July the 2nd, we were roused early, and we waited, had our breakfast, and then we were told to move up towards the Little Round Top, the bottom of Little Round Top. And that's where we were, and our Corps commander, General Sickles, looked at the ground, and he decided on his own that he did not like that ground, and he wanted to move his men up forward, thus breaking the line and leaving serious holes in both the right and the left. I was told by Colonel Cavada to please set up the hospital tents at the bottom of Little Round Top, where I assisted the surgeons. And as the battles start getting worse and worse, it was about 3 o'clock that it really hit. And my unit, my little 114th, that are so brave, they were placed in the hottest possible place for fighting, right up by the Sherfy Farm, and they were just mangled. Those men did everything they could at the front line to maim and kill each other, and then they sent them back to me and the surgeons to try to help them save their life. And it was a horrible day. I was told then to move the hospital tents around to the back of Little Round Top by Rock Creek so we could have water, and it was a lot safer back there. And then they started bringing the wounded in, thousands. My little regiment was very fierce, and they held their ground, but they were just mauled by the Confederates. And actually Colonel Cavada was captured, and during the fight many of the wounded soldiers crawled into the Sherfy barn, and the barn caught fire, and all those men perished because they were too wounded to come out. It was a hideous sight. And back at Rock Creek, it went on for Actually, the 2nd, the 3rd, and the 4th were days of just horror that never ended, of the men coming in. They were laid out all over the fields, wherever you could see, crying and moaning, begging for water. We couldn't sleep at night for the cries of the men looking for water. And the next day, many of them had died and were just left on the blood-soaked ground where they died. But then after that, we were moved to the back of the angle, and that's where we were kept in reserve, and that's how that went. And I stayed actually after the battle because of Vivandier never leaves her boys, and we had so many wounded, and I stayed with them until my boys were well enough that I felt that I could leave them. And actually, on the 7th of July, I had a picture taken of me that is a very iconic picture. And it was after that I went and rejoined my regiment. I was with my regiment for the entire war, and I was known as Fearless French Mary. There were many times I was in harm's way, always. One at Chancellorsville, my skirts were shot with bullet holes, and my canteen was shattered while I was wearing it, and that's when I was awarded a Carney Cross. But as I said, I was with the Zouaves for the entire war, and when I mustered out in the end of May of 1865.